Chapter 1. J. Jacob was stuck in sweltering bumper-to-bumper traffic, but he was happy. Happy because his daughter was finally sitting next to him again. Happy because he had finally made it. Happy because he had been right. He had spent the last 13 years of his life working in corporate middle management at a plastic shipping company. Long nights and weekends, constantly on call and endless meetings. He had even picked up an extra contracting job for the last 5 years. At least after his wife had left him. He lived in a cheap apartment and worked from home. He only really left his apartment for groceries, doctor's appointments, and for a 30-minute workout at the gym every other day. If not to get in shape, at least to maintain it. All this so he could save and invest almost every dollar he made. So eventually this day would come. The day when he had hit his FIRE number. FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. The point was to calculate a number you needed to save to retire early, as well as the lifestyle of saving to go with it. FIRED meant that someone had hit their number and could retire. His number was 1.5 million. Now he could live off the interest for the rest of his life. He had skipped vacations, missed events, and turned down hangouts, all to stay the line and pursue this goal. He thought other people were financially irresponsible or just lacked the dedication that he had. They weren't willing to make the sacrifices like him. They needed their avocado toast and $10 Starbucks each day. His family had been irrational. They certainly hadn't understood that he was making sacrifices for them all. So they could have a better life, free from financial burdens. He had tried to convince Ashley before she had left him. "Hey Anna, how's your mom doing? Her and Kyle still going strong?" he said. Ashley had married Kyle 2 years after their divorce. Up until that point, Jacob had believed they were just on a break, that he would be able to rekindle their relationship after he had fired. Once he finally could give her all the time she had wanted and more. Seeing their engagement on social media had put him in a dark mood for a while, but eventually he moved on and shifted his focus purely to Anna. It had helped that not having a partner had reduced his projected expenses and his FIRE number became more easily achieved. "They're doing fine. You really need to stop hoping they're going to break up. It was super cringy that you asked her to come," Anna had replied. She was about to turn 15 and had a bit of sass in her tone. Jacob had asked Ashley to come. Maybe part of him hoped even now that she would give him another chance, but mostly he thought he was just being polite. The bulk of his conversation had actually been begging her to convince Anna to come because originally she hadn't wanted to. He had to admit that he had been very absent the last 5 years, but it was for a rational reason. Logical. He had set aside a 529 plan for Anna to help pay for her college, as well as a separate investment account that was on track to hit $100K by her projected graduation date. Anna took after her mom, though, and didn't understand finances. That had caused her to resent his absence. At first, when he started calling again, she wouldn't even speak to him. But now he was free, and even if he hadn't quit his main job, he had stopped working overtime and left his contracting gig. This had given him all the free time in the world to explain, scrape, beg, and apologize. It had been a week before she would take the phone from Ashley and actually speak with him. That first week had been spent explaining to Ashley that he had changed, that he had finally hit his number, that he didn't need to work so hard anymore, that he would be able to be more present from now on. She hadn't been that impressed, but eventually she said she would try to convince Anna to speak to him, and despite what had happened between them in the past, it had seemed she had honored her word. Jacob's stomach groaned and he took a bite from his now cold breakfast sandwich, still partially wrapped in foil. He grimaced as he tasted the sausage. Anna noticed. "I told you to have them remake it as soon as you saw the sausage." "It's fine, no big deal," Jacob said. His stomach grumbled again as he placed the sandwich in the cup holder to grab the wheel and inch the car forward a few feet as the car in front of him moved up. "Are you guys good, though? Is your mom saving for retirement?" Anna rolled her eyes. You know they took bets on how long into the trip it would take you to mention finances. Kyle said you wouldn't make it past the flight. And what did your mom say? She said you would in the car. Then Anna got an alert on her phone and giggled. Look! She showed him her phone. Ashley had texted a picture of his work phone with jail bars photoshopped over it. Wow, she really hates that phone, huh? Well, it did ruin your marriage, Anna chided, as she raised her eyebrows with a smirk. Ashley had made Jacob promise that he would have zero work interference on the trip and seemed surprised when Jacob readily agreed. She must not have paid attention when he told her about his fire number. In fact, she was in such disbelief that she had made him leave his work phone with her, but she didn't understand. No matter how many times he explained, work had just been a means to an end. Anna's comment did hit a chord, though he didn't show it. It made him think back to the last years of his marriage, all the times he had to step away from family dinners for work calls, all the vacations he spent locked in the bathroom, laptop on his lap, resolving some critical work issue. But what was 1 or 2 vacations when compared with financial independence forever? On some level, he knew that it was wearing Ashley down, and he had apologized every time, but his apologies seemed to matter less and less as the years went by. He had just kept trying to show her the projections, begged her to just stay the course so they would be set for life. It wasn't his fault that the fire number kept increasing. I mean, they had a kid that needed to be planned for, and what if they wanted a second or a third? What if there was inflation or a bad stock market year? It didn't matter if they had to deal with temporary challenges, they had plenty of time, right? Surely she could see how hard he was working for her and Anna, right? Slowly, she had stopped getting mad when he worked late, stopped getting disappointed when he worked the weekend, started only slowly nodding when he would tell her work was calling and then walk out of the room with his phone. He had thought things were getting better, that she had finally locked in, but it was him that wasn't understanding. So it was a surprise when, on a Friday night, she had said that she booked a cabin an hour away and had found a sitter for Anna. Then she issued her ultimatum. You need to show me you can create time for us, or I'm going to leave you. She looked him in the eyes, dead serious. I never see you anymore, Jacob. I feel like I'm doing this alone. Jacob had almost panicked. He was so caught off guard. He had quickly promised her, of course he would make time for her. He loved her. Look, we can go to the cabin, no problem. I'll leave my work phone here. He still remembered her smile when he reassured her. And then, when they were arriving at the cabin, they both heard the ringtone coming from the trunk. She had just looked at him, vacant, defeated. I swear, I forgot it in the trunk. I won't answer it. I'll just let it ring. She had just turned away and said, You better answer it. It might be important. She walked into the cabin. It was only later, years later, when he realized that that was the moment that he had truly lost her. Forever. The moment was still painful. He had spent years after beating himself up over it. He had even admitted to himself that maybe, in that moment, for once, he had not made the rational choice. He found himself shaking his head slightly in real life as he remembered how there had been a critical problem at work. How he had told Ashley he just needed 5 minutes, and that they would have plenty of time to enjoy the cabin. How he had gone into the bathroom to not disturb her, and 5 minutes turned to 30, 30 turned into an hour. He remembered hearing the door to the cabin shut, how he had thought she was just going for a walk. An hour became 2, and then when he finally came out, he found the cabin empty. All that was left was a note that read, I can't do this anymore. It was partially distorted in spots from where her wet tears had wrinkled the paper. He remembered noticing she must have been gone a long time because the paper had already dried. She had served him divorce papers the next day. Even then, he had thought he would have time to make it up to her later. But the cabin had clearly been a test, and he had let her down for the last time. He felt moisture building in the corners of his eyes and forced them a bit wider so it wouldn't condense. Come on, man, get it together. Don't do this now. Not in front of your daughter. Took a deep breath and got a hold of himself. He coughed to clear his throat. Listen, Anna, I know I could have been a better husband and father. I tried to show I cared by working and providing for your future. I became so focused on that, I didn't give you guys as much time as I should have. But I promise it's different now. I don't need to work as much. Yeah. At least I'm getting a Hawaii trip out of it. Anna rolled her eyes. Eventually, they parked and made it into the airport with plenty of time to spare thanks to Jacob's careful planning. If there was one thing he was good at, it was project management. He was still hungry, so they sat down to eat at one of the overpriced airport restaurants. He decided to avoid the topic of finances for the rest of the trip, and so the conversation was going well. She started talking about how her favorite class was science and how she wanted to go to vet school when she graduated. He felt buzzing in his pocket a few times while they chatted, but he ignored it. Jacob could see her eyes start to light up when she talked about different cool animals she had learned about. You know, ducks are actually in a sex arms race? She smirked, seeming to take pleasure in the glances from nearby tables. The female duck's hole actually evolved to be a literal labyrinth. So the male duck's penis had to constantly evolve, eventually turning into a freakish giant corkscrew to navigate it. She finished her statement with bright eyes, looking for his reaction, just as the waitress was bringing the food. Very interesting, Anna. Oh, thank you, Jacob said as the waitress sat down with his burgers and fries. It was steaming gently and smelled of bacon and beef. His stomach grumbled. He picked it up, bit into it, and then grimaced as the flavor of pickle overpowered everything. They put pickles in it, didn't they? Anna said, eyeing him. It's fine, Jacob said as he peeled open the burger and removed them. He took another bite, but the pickle still left a sour residue behind. It's not fine, Dad. You hate pickles. And you definitely told them, no pickles. Have them remake it. Anna said this sternly. But Jacob didn't want to cause problems, and who knows, maybe they would get mad and spit in his food. He had heard about that happening to people. No, it's okay. No big deal. Anna actually started to look a bit angry and began to flag the waitress down when Jacob's phone started ringing. Anna stopped and slowly turned toward him and eyed him carefully. Jacob held up his hands, palms outward, in a mock I surrender signal. It's probably your mom. She has my work phone. I'll just let it ring. It's fine. The ringtone eventually stopped and Jacob breathed a sigh of relief. Then it started ringing again. Maybe you forgot something at your mom's? I should at least check. Anna watched him as he got out his phone. He saw he had a few mixed calls and text messages from Richard, his boss. What the? And then he remembered that he had given his boss his personal phone number years ago during a conference where the work phone had poor reception. He had completely forgotten. He read the messages. Jacob, where are you? Why aren't you answering your work phone? I know you're on vacation, but we need your help. Call me back ASAP. Jacob, call back now. Emergency. There must be something really wrong for him to take these drastic measures. Anna will understand, right? I mean, we have plenty of time. I'll make sure I wrap it up before we land, he thought. Okay, Anna, don't be mad, Jacob said, and Anna's expression darkened. It's work, isn't it? You actually gave work your personal number. She had a familiar, defeated look on her face, the same one he had seen from her mother years before. Listen, I genuinely forgot they had it, but there's some kind of emergency. Look, I promise I will wrap up whatever it is before we get to Hawaii. And if it's not, I will throw my phone in the ocean. Sure, whatever. And then Anna got out her own phone and started furiously texting. I have plenty of time to make it up to her, he thought as he answered the phone. The emergency turned out to be a problem with a new product packaging that had just launched from one of his teams. It had been thoroughly tested and should have saved money, scaling into millions of dollars in savings due to cheaper materials. The problem was that the packaging slightly deformed when packed onto the trucks, creating empty spaces, which they had only just discovered. This meant the trucks carried reduced amount of inventory in total, meaning it actually cost the company more money than it saved. This had been a months-long project and was a big problem. As he went about messaging his team and communicating damage control to stakeholders, time got away from him. 30 minutes turned into an hour, then they were boarding the plane. Once seated, he thought he could wrap it up in another hour. When that hour passed, he started to realize he may not actually be able to fix the issue by the time they landed in Hawaii. He glanced at his daughter. She was quietly playing a phone game as a storm started to pick up outside. She looks like she's fine. Maybe I can ask her to let me hold on to my phone after we land for just another hour, he thought. There's plenty of time to make it up to her. And then the Wi-Fi went out.
This is your captain speaking. Please fasten your seatbelts. We are expecting some turbulence.
The intercom clicked off. A dark storm raged outside the plane. It proceeded through the sky, buffeted by wind and rain, while lightning occasionally crashed, briefly illuminating the shrouding clouds. The ocean lay somewhere below, deep and dark, invisible, but waiting. Anna was peering outside the window. Now that her phone had run out of juice, that was the only entertainment she had. He inwardly winced with each shift of the plane. This is why I hate flying, he thought. Humans were not meant to be thousands of feet in the air. His daughter had loved it, though. In fact, she had the window shade open. Lightning flashed, illuminating her serious face. She softly muttered to herself, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She paused as thunder rumbled. She had explained that she could tell how close the lightning was if she counted from when she saw the flash to when she heard the boom. The plane suddenly dropped, causing his stomach to fall. A micro moment of panic in his stomach before it leveled out. His free hand clenched the armrest. Lightning flashed. 1, 2, 3, rumble. The cabin was quiet, not because everyone was sleeping, though it was the middle of the night. Some were nervously whispering, but most had been woken by the turbulence. They sat quietly, silently wishing it would end, telling themselves flying was safe, telling themselves to ignore that feeling in the pits of their stomachs every time the aircraft shifted. Lightning flashed. 1. The girl paused. Dad. What's up, Anna? I saw something out there. He unclenched his hand from the armrest and leaned over his daughter to look out the window. He stared out into the wet, violent darkness and waited. Lightning flashed, granting a pulse of vision. As it illuminated the clouds, he thought he did see something out there. He squinted. Yes, there was a dark shape in the clouds. It soon became invisible as the light faded. See? She squeezed his hand. What the? Was that some kind of thicker cloud? I see, he said. Let's keep watching. They both leaned close to the window, waiting. Lightning flashed, and then his mind was overwhelmed by a rush of stimuli. A sudden flash of a scaled, gaping maw opening, fire rushing forward, striking the plane, tearing metal screeches assaulting his ears, and then a rush of deafening wind ripping through the cabin. Screaming. His mind registered all these things at once as the plane ripped open. Anna's seat tore free and was sucked out into the storm. He squinted his eyes against the roaring wind and looked in horror, registering one fleeting frame of her form, still buckled into the now detached seat, hands outstretched towards him, frozen in time for a single temporary moment, floating outside the plane. And then she was gone, and so was much of the rear cabin. Outside, pieces continued to tear free from the plane as the tail struggled to stay attached. He felt the aircraft violently pitch to the right and down as his stomach dropped. Fire engulfed the plane in front and then raced towards him as the aircraft carried him through the air where it lingered for a moment, burning. Then it was gone, and so was the cockpit. He looked through the hollow tube of the cabin, now terminating with nothing. True panic overcame him. He lost control of his body, white-knuckled, vice grip locked onto the armrest, mouth involuntarily open. Every muscle in his body clenched. He thought his throat was screaming, but he couldn't hear himself over the blasting wind, rain, and engines. Were they spinning down? He was sure of one thing. He knew he was about to die. Impact. He dreamed. Achievement. Near-death experience. Achievement. State of panic. Skill. Lesser endurance. Aquatic. Obtained. Skill. Lesser resistance to fear. Obtained. Class. Survivor. Obtained. The first thing he became aware of was that something was jostling him. He felt someone grabbing his shoulders. Had he fallen asleep during the flight? Was Anna trying to wake him up? As his foggy brain slowly processed, he became aware of pressure all around him. He opened his mouth to issue a sleepy groan and water flooded in. He immediately started coughing and opened his eyes, stinging from the salty water as air bubbles rose in front of him. Jacob was still buckled into his seat in the now broken corpse of the airplane, which was now motionless, resting askew on a perch of coral. Many seats on the plane that remained were empty, though a few were still occupied by the unlucky and the unmoving. The side of the plane that had been peeled open like an aluminum can revealed a view of dimly illuminated reef. It was tinged orange by rays of the rising sun penetrating from the surface. The lighting was too dim to make out exactly what the dark shapes moving around outside the plane were, but they had fins and tails, and they were big. But the man was ignorant of this information because as he opened his eyes, he immediately focused on one thing. In front of him was a face that had soft, youthful, feminine features. Wide eyes, a small translucent nose, and thin, pale, pursed lips. Then he noticed the ears. They were fin-like aquatic structures resembling external gills. His eyes quickly shifted next to her hair, which had floated close to him, brushing against his face and neck, and realized that they were actually thin, undulating tentacles that were actively rubbing against him. The creature reacted to his waking and coughing by shifting its eyes upwards, from looking at his seatbelt to meet his gaze. Eyes staring, its mouth drooped open, revealing initially normal-looking teeth, but those ended with the canines, where double rows of sharp, serrated needles began. He emitted a water-muted scream and frantically pushed out with his hands, making contact with her arms, which felt smooth and rubbery. The creature reacted by instantly recoiling backwards up and over the seats in front of him, quickly hidden from view. After a few seconds, he saw two webbed hands appear over the top of the seat. No longer pale and translucent, but matching the color of the seat almost exactly. Then the creature's face slowly rose until its eyes were just over the top of the seat, peeking at him. Its face was nearly invisible, as it too now matched the colors behind it, camouflaged. A shadow fell over the cabin, and he saw it tilt its head to glance outside as a large shape glided by silently. A 12-foot-long shark. He felt water shift around him from the hole as its wake brushed up against the side of the plane. In the distance, other shapes could be seen circling closer. His mind, still hazy but waking up, finally registered the urgency to breathe. He felt panic rising but was able to push the fear down and tried to focus. His thoughts came in rapid staccato. That creature seems scared. Shark's outside. Gotta make the surface or I'll drown. Gotta get this belt off. He quickly reached down and undid the belt buckle, one hand raised palm outwards towards the creature in what he hoped conveyed a stay back signal, while the other grasped the armrest to pull himself forward to the edge of the hole in the plane. He kicked off his waterlogged shoes, which were weighing down his feet, as he gazed out into the open ocean and felt fear start to rise in the pit of his stomach. A dozen sharks were circling the area. White, dead, merciless eyes, gaping mouths with sharpened, foreboding teeth, and powerful tails propelling them far faster than any human could ever hope to swim. To the left in the distance, he could see the reef end and the ocean sand floor rise up to meet the surface with white, churning wave breaks. Beach! But if he left the plane and they went for him, he would be helpless. He would need to swim through 200 feet of open ocean, and he had never been a strong swimmer to begin with. I'll never make it, he thought. Then he noticed a shift in the shark's behavior as they started moving off to the right and upwards, attracted by something. He looked and saw, oh no, someone from the plane making a break for the surface. He saw one of the converging sharks pick up speed, becoming a torpedo with teeth and rushing forward to bite the figure from below. As it thrashed the figure back and forth, a red plume started to expand, frenzying the other sharks to join in. They frantically darted forwards, biting, swarming, feeding. It's now or never, he thought. With the shark's attention diverted, he grabbed the jagged edge of the plane and pushed himself out. His momentum was jolted as his pants caught on a jagged edge of metal and pain erupted from his leg. Fuck! He kicked with the stuck leg, but the pants were still caught, and he saw an unmistakable dark red liquid starting to float away from the wound. Oh no. No. He started to panic again. He willed himself to wake up, but he remained trapped in this nightmare, frantically trying to tear his leg away, uselessly grabbing his pants and pulling away as hard as he could. They tore more, but were still caught, spurting red ink into the water. In his mind, he imagined the sharks converging around him, underneath him, attacking him at any moment. And then a sound appeared all around him. A clear, vibrating tone held steady in the water, and then a pitch change, and then another. A lilting melody started to envelop him. What? He felt his heartbeat start to calm, and panic started to ebb away. His mind became slow and foggy, and then he saw her, floating towards him from inside the plane. Beautiful woman. Golden hair flowing behind her in the water. Golden, radiant. Her perfect face was beaming at him as she smiled. Her eyes were the sun, a promise of love and warmth, drawing his gaze with inexorable gravity. Beautiful, he thought. His jaw went slack and he stopped thrashing. He forgot about the sharks. He forgot about the crash. He forgot about his daughter. The whole world started to fade away into blurry grays, except for her, as though she had sucked up all the color to make herself more vibrant. His desire was arid and parched, and that thirst required him to drink her gaze. She came close and reached for him. Gently, she pulled off his pants to float down next to the plane, freeing him. But he just floated there, entranced. She swam past him and he felt an urgent pang. Don't go! As though hearing him, she reached back, hand outstretched. He took it, fingers interlacing, and then he was moving. She seemed to effortlessly sail through the water. The gentle pressure of it across his skin as he was pulled along added to the hypnotic effect of the ongoing melody. He felt himself start to drift off, and his hand went slack, but she held him fast as they glided through the water. Away.